My name is Dale Hardaman. I'm a member of the local 2114 AFT since its conception in 1970-71, and I'm proud to say that I was one of the original members or charter member of our union. And we decided we could form our own union, or we were going to try to form our own union to better our working conditions as far as wages and benefits and safety conditions and just overall working conditions in our profession. And that's where we started with this idea of this local. The biggest problem we faced when we started teaching was our salary was low. My first contract was $6,900. The working conditions around our school and other schools in the county were as worse than that. We had to stay at ball games at night and not get paid. We had to be early in the mornings for bus duty before school kids got there. We had to supervise people at lunchrooms, and you couldn't even eat lunch by yourself. You didn't have a preparation period during the day. If he wanted you to have 7 classes, you'd have 7 classes. And you would have maybe 3 different preparation periods. Like you may teach 7th grade English, 8th grade math, 8th grade science. So you'd have all these different preparations, which we don't have today. So that was really a strain on teachers to have all these preparations and not have a time to plan for them. So all the extra time that we put into a day was growing from 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours, and then sometimes at night, you know, had to come back and supervise the school and make sure things were going as planned. So, you know, we just figured that there was a change needed to be made and that we need to have more input into our profession as teachers and in our working conditions. One of the biggest struggles that we overcame was that when we signed up to teach in Jefferson County back in 1969 and 1970, when we signed our contract with the county, we were handed in a packet a document to sign that was with AEA, which is Alabama Education Association. And not being conversed on what this document was, it was just sort of expected of you to sign it because they were the only organization around. And so everybody was wasn't forced into signing it, but it was just a routine that you went through signing papers, your insurance papers, your contract, your AEA documents, and then all of a sudden you're getting cut out AEA dues that you really didn't know a whole lot about. So this was sort of forced on us in the beginning. When we first started the union, we had to use secret code names because the Board of Education had the list of all the teachers and all the teachers that were trying to go union. So we had to have code names that the prospective members that we were contacting and meeting, and we would give each other code names so our names would not be given to the board. There's no way they could get my real name. My code name was Run and Gun. So anytime anybody wanted to get in touch with me, it was Run and Gun, and I knew that something was up and I had to get in touch with Frank Ingram, who was one of the biggest leaders at Mortimer Jordan High School. And so I knew that something would be up, there'd be a meeting or something like this. So we tried to protect our namesake because there was retaliation on the part of principals and head coaches and people like that were trying to deter you from forming a union. And we were threatened daily. For a long time, we were threatened daily with it. Some of the things that happened, not only to me, also my first cousin, Dolan Hardaman, he was one of our first organizing presidents, he and Frank Ingram at Mortimer Jordan. You got to understand that a lot of this started at Mortimer Jordan High School. I was at Warrior High School. So Frank Ingram, one of our very first president after our charter, and Dolan actually were the people who were organizing the call-outs and the get in touch with people. And we would meet off campus. Of course, Inslee High School rings the bell, some faraway place that we thought we would be undetected. So we had to do this under cloak and dagger type stuff, and these secret names, and trying to dodge the people who knew you, because I didn't have tenure. My wife also was a school teacher. She was a year behind me. So when we both started in teaching, I went with AFT and I made her stay with AEA because if something happened to me in my job, at least we would have one income coming in. So I made her stay at EA until we both got tenure. So it was after that that we both went AFT. But the jobs were threatened daily. I mean, the principal had a very good principal. Name's Gene Barnwell Warrior. He sympathized with the union. But I also had head coaches that did not, and he was getting his information from the county. And since I was tenured, I was threatened every day. Well, if you keep on pushing this union, you're not going to have a job next year. And I was non-tenured. They don't have to give you a reason for not renewing your contract when you don't have tenure. So that was a real threat. But we persevered through that, and we were told that daily. And as we got stronger, the message just came stronger. You know, you're not going to have a job next year. You're not going to have a job. You're going to get fired. They're not going to renew your contract. If you don't get out of this union, you're not going to have a job. You know, do you want a job? Blah blah blah. And that's all we heard was all these threats, and it was daily. But you know, we had people who persevered this and went through it, and we knew we had a magic number to reach to get a charter. And as we worked daily, we would keep tabs of how many people we had. And then when that day came that we had 60, we knew it was the battle was almost won. Not completely, but we could form our own charter. I just think our biggest success of organizing was our goal was to beat the charter. We knew the number we had to have, and I think at that time it was 60. I'm not sure, but I believe it was 60 people. And to get 60 people, when basically this was coming out of North Jefferson County, Moorma Jordan, Corner, Warrior, those schools. A lot of these schools today weren't there. So to be seen and to be heard, and to, after all this scrutiny that we were under with the county, and this was coming from the superintendent on down, of all this scrutiny, a lot of people were scared, and it was real reluctant to join. They wanted to join, but they were scared. To get that 60 was magical for us, and we look back on that, and it was a heck of a struggle, and we had a lot of people who fell by the wayside that joined us in the beginning, but were threatened so much by the threats of their principals and their superintendents that they fell by the wayside. And those 60 that stayed and put this thing together, I think that was our biggest accomplishment. The reason we did not have a lot of success early was the fear of retaliation. And when we only had 60 people who made the charter, that was our hub. Okay, we needed more members to make a push against our grievance that we had. And we had a lot of people who dropped out on their own because of fear of retaliation. And my cousin, Dolan Hardaman, who was the head basketball coach at Moorma Jordan, was retaliated on his third year because he was not renewed as a teacher. And it was largely because his principal told him point blank, if you don't get out of the union, you're not going to have a job. And sure enough, he didn't have a job. So we had this fear of retaliation on all of our charter members. And then anybody else that we would sign up, they had to understand this fear of retaliation. And we would warn them, you're going to get threats. They're going to say they're going to take your job. You know, different things. They're going to make you teach stuff you don't want to teach. They're going to make you teach more classes. They're going to make you come in for early bus duty. They're going to make you stay for late bus duty. This is all retaliation if you join us, and we want you to know that up front. So we couldn't push our issues early until we felt like we had 150, 200 members, because with 60 people fighting the system, it was just really a no-win situation at that point. We were more interested in getting members and spreading the word, and then when we felt like we had some power, we would then start, you know, making our grievances known to the county. I would say that the most important person that I've admired in the past was Jimmy Hoffa. I did not meet him, but from working through the Teamsters Union and seeing what he did for AFL-CIO and how he organized unions across the country, I would say that's the person that I admired the most. But now the person that I admire the most is Vi Paramore, the president of this 2114 union here in Birmingham. Vi Paramore came in over 10 years ago as a teacher from Jefferson County who fought those battles with us in getting our union as strong as it was. She was elected president through our membership. She is here for the students and the teachers the janitors, the custodians, the lunchroom workers, everyone that has a problem knows Vi's name by Paramore. She's known throughout this county. She gives everybody her cell phone numbers. If they have problems, they're told to pick up that phone and call her. She'll return a call right then. If not, she'll have someone at their door in 24 hours. So she's done so much for this union. We've grown to over 3,500 people here in Jefferson County alone. So she's done a great job, and this union wouldn't be what it is without her. I think the most interesting story I have to tell about the union is in the early stages when we were forced to have code names, the way of communicating with the different people that we were talking with. We had to assign everyone a code name. And mine was running gun, and that was an old term that my coach used in college when I played basketball. He was wide open all the time, and his offense was called running gun. So I used that as my code name. So anytime anybody wanted to get a hold of me, I would get mail through the office that would have running gun, Warrior High School. So I think that was pretty weird. And some of the other code names that people had, it's sort of like reading their tags on their cars now. So a lot of that carried over. So I would think the code names in the early development, the simplicity of undercover work, it was so intriguing, and just trying to outsmart the system. So I would say that's the most intriguing thing that I was aware of. I can say that my advice to the next generation of teachers, since I have a son who is a senior at Athens State this year, who will become an elementary teacher, I tell him, like I'm telling you, get involved with your profession. Only you can make your profession better. And by voicing your concerns about things that you see that are not right, that you don't feel like is right, if you get involved, express your concerns to your local association like the AFT 2114 here in Birmingham, you have people you can talk to, you have representatives that can come to your school and express your concerns to your principal or your administrator or whatever, and then you can work to resolve these problems. People like me who've been in this thing for the conception of AFT have laid the groundwork, and we have gone through a lot of trials and tribulations with this union. We now want you to continue our work and make this a better profession like we've made it for you. When I had $6,900 contract, now you're starting out at almost $40,000. Things like this, your working conditions, you only teach probably 4 classes a day, maybe 5. You have a duty-free prep period. You have duty-free lunchroom periods. So these things came about because of change that we saw back 40 years ago. Now we're asking you to keep changing, to look at the different possibilities of change in your profession and make those changes, and don't be afraid to make those changes, because you have a group of people with you that stand behind your back and will push you and help guide you. And you're all in this for one. AFT here 2114, we're one group and we're all one family, and that's what we want you to be.